Hello and welcome back to Crafted by Corie. If you're new, I'm Corie. Welcome to my channel. If you are returning, thank you as always. You are the best. Today is the minis challenge. Lots of inspiration to come. There is a whole playlist. More about that in just a little bit. But for now, let's go ahead and get right on into the crafting. DIY number one. All right, this is a little carrot. I want to call it chipboard. I'm not sure if that's the right term for it or not, but it's like a really, really heavy cardboard. Not quite wood, but it's a really solid piece of cardboard. And I'm going to just cut off the little top of the carrot, just scoring it multiple times with my X-Acto knife until I can kind of bend it and break it free. At this point, I should have used this as an advantage to peel the paper away, but I hadn't thought about taking the paper off the back of it just yet, or off the front of it, if you will. So just sanding down the edge that I cut off and kind of curving the edges, and then also flattening the point at the, well, it's the bottom, but it's going to become the top for me. But then I realized I really did need to peel this paper away because it's just not going to do well with being painted, and it had like a glittery lettering on it, and so I just went ahead and peeled that off. It came off really very easily for the most part. There was one little spot there that was giving me some trouble, but I just folded up my sanding paper and sanded it off, and it was easy. This is Sunny Porch by, I believe it's Home Decor. And I'm just giving both sides and all the edges one good coat of paint. And now I'm coming in, this blue ended up being a little bit too light, mainly because it was a little bit translucent. It wasn't as opaque as I was expecting it to be. So I am going to end up selecting a darker blue out of my little Arteza paint marker set. And especially once I started putting down this fuchsia color, I was like, wow, that is nice and opaque, and it's a really nice deep color, and I loved it. So I knew at this point that I was definitely going to be pulling out a different blue to try to darken up the surfs. So going over that now, I'm just taking my time. Just a reminder, I am drawing my letters and I am taking my time. This video is sped up about 2.5 times, so I am not going as fast as it appears in the video. So just keep that in mind. Be kind to yourself, and you can do this. So I thought about painting some big flowers on here. I was kind of thinking 70s theme for whatever reason when I was making this. I don't know. But ultimately I decided just to do a bunch of polka dots. I feel like I didn't have a lot of surface area to work with to do those flowers. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to do polka dots. I've got this orange and I've got a nice dark purple there just to kind of jazz it up a little bit. And that's really all I did for this cute little surfboard. Hopefully it looks like a surfboard. That was what I was going for. But leave me a comment and let me know what you think of this one. Now, as I mentioned before, it is the minis challenge. This is the full schedule for the rest of the year. If you'd like to participate, we would love to have you. And make sure you go and check out the playlist. There's a link in my description box. DIY number 2. All right, I have a transfer from Couture, and then I also have a bunch of these little planks from the Dollar Tree. I think it was 6 to a pack. I pulled out 3. I am going to end up pulling out a 4th one. We're going to be making this double-sided, so we'll use the Couture transfer on one side, and then we're going to do something completely different on the other side, give you some options here. So this is a 2-for-1. I flipped over these little panels because I want to get them glued together, and I decided that that was how I was going to use that 4th panel, and I'm going to apply the glue to that And I've been having trouble with my nozzle on my glue, so I'm just kind of going to squeeze out a dollop here. And I'll use a paintbrush to get it kind of smeared around. I thought about setting it down and kind of smearing it just like that. And I was like, yeah, it's a bad idea, Corey. So I used my paintbrush, got it all spread out nicely. I've put some of the excess glue back into the glue jar. And now I'm just getting that settled down. This is actually the power of editing because this is the next day. So make sure you allow your wood glue to set up. I did not use any hot glue on this. It was entirely wood glue. So I did let it sit overnight. And now I am painting that panel white, and I'm going to paint the other side white as well as all of those edges. Just giving it one good coat of the Adirondack white chalk paint. And then once that was completely dry, I set it down on, now I have it elevated, you guys, because I didn't want to put it down on my silicone mat because my silicone mat is a little bit dirty. It needs to get cleaned, and I didn't want to put a brand newly painted thing down on it. And I'm using my silicone mat to catch any paint drippings because I'm out of my little parchment sheets. I have to pick some up at the Dollar Tree. So long story short, that's why you're seeing things the way that you're seeing them right now. But yeah, now this is my sunny porch chalk paint. Just used it on the little surfboard before, and I'm just going to coat everything but that white panel. Clearly you can see that that's what I did. This is a black Arteza paint marker, and I have the tip turned around. So I don't know if you know about the Arteza paint markers. They have a dual end tip, and they give you these little tweezers with the paint markers, so you can literally pull the tip out of the marker, flip it around, and you'll have a chisel tip, which is what I am presently using as the chisel tip. And then you've got a blunt tip on the opposite end. So I am just trying to take my time, trying to draw these as straight as I can. You know, hand lettering isn't always perfect, but I think it gives it character. So that's what I opted to do on this side. Now you can always trace something. You can always use a vinyl cutter if you have one. You could use a stencil if you're not into the hand lettering, but I tend to like to do the hand lettering sometimes. So now I am drawing just a little bumblebee. As you can see, I started out with a little head. It's just a circle, a couple of upside down slanted hearts for the wings, and then just a little bulb on the end for his body. I started to draw straight lines there and then decided, you know what, bumblebees are fuzzy. I didn't want my line to be too straight. And now I'm just drawing a jagged dash for the little flight pattern, if you will. I had left an area for his little eyes too. I'll be coming back in with some white paint in just a minute to touch up some of those areas. So did his little antennae. Again, left some eyeballs, and I'll just go ahead and create him the same way that I did the first one with the little heart shapes for the wings, and then the little body, and filling that in with the, what is that? Is it fur? Bumblebees don't have fur, do they? I don't know. What are those called? Because they're definitely fuzzy, right? I don't know. My thought of the day. Are bumblebees furry? I don't know. Oh, it's late when I'm recording this, you guys. I'm getting a little punchy. And I'm fighting a cold, as you could probably hear. So forgive my congested voice. But coming in with my Adirondack paint and just trying to highlight his eyes and then fill in the wings with the white paint. On the one little guy at the bottom, I did get too much white paint on his little face, so I will come back in with some, with that black paint marker again. Here, yeah, here. I'm trying to fix it and make it look better, and I ended up just, yeah, it wasn't what I had intended. So I let it dry. Once it was dry, I know it looked like I didn't wait at all, but trust me, I cut out a bunch of footage there. So it was all dry, and I'm coming back in with my black paint marker to just touch that up. Okay, so now we're going to flip it over onto the other side. And my little bees were still drying a little bit, so that was why I kind of propped this up the way that I did. If I had had the luxury of time, I would have just let it dry completely, and then I could have made it a little bit of a flatter surface. But yeah, time is not a luxury for me at this moment. So I was fuzzing my transfer so that it will still be sticky, but not super sticky so that I can't get it off of my surface and pull up the paint. I've learned that the hard way. But I got it all lined up and laid down. And now this is the pomegranate paste that I'm putting down. And I'm just going to have to be careful here because I am on a kind of tilty surface. So I recommend you working on a flat surface. I was just making do with the time that I had. Excuse me. I'm also trying to work quickly here because I know that this paste dries very fast. And if I don't work quickly and I don't start lifting up this transfer soon enough, the paste will dry within the transfer and it'll get peeled up off of the surface of my project, and then it won't look right. So most of it was okay. I did have a spot up there by my thumb that was a little bit faded. It's hard to tell here on the video, at least on the little screen that I'm looking at, but let me know what you think of this. DIY number 3. Okay, I have this little wooden cupcake cut out in my stash, as well as another little wood panel. I think that one also came in a pack of 6 from the Dollar Tree. I've got a few colors of chalk paint that I've pulled out from my stash. Vintage Victorian is the pink. The yellow is Sunny Porch. The blue was Pool, and I believe the purple was called Lilac. Now you could tape this off and make perfectly straight lines. I opted to make them, my goodness, what is the word I'm looking for? Intentionally jagged, wavy, whatever you like to say. But I am creating stripes, and I'm carrying it around to the other side of the piece as well. So these stripes are being done on both sides in the same kind of space, so to speak. So it's going to be, you can kind of see there, striping on both sides with the same stripe pattern. Once I had that done, I went ahead and set it aside to dry, and now I'm going to work with my Arteza chalk paint marker. This is in silver. It looks honestly more like a gray. It had a very slight metallic look to it on the wood, but it was perfectly fine for my purposes. Just making the little cupcake not tin, but paper thingy that the cupcake sits in. So I went ahead and coated it with that, and then I grabbed a darker gray out of my stash. It wasn't a lot darker, but just slightly darker. And I'm going to make the little lines that, and actually, as I say that, it looks a little bit lighter when I'm looking at it here. I don't know. It was a different shade of gray. It was a little bit different so that it could make the definition of the little cupcake thingy, whatever you want to call that thing. And now this is my Adirondack white chalk paint. I am frosting my little cupcake and just making sure that I've got a nice coat on that. I'm leaving the little bubble at the top. I'm going to use that as a little cherry. So painting that red. And then I also have a little half round. Is that what I would call it? I'm not sure. I'll show you in a second, but it's like half of a wood bead. It's not even a bead. I'm at a loss for words tonight, you guys. But I am just adding some little sprinkles on in the same colors that I was using for the stripes plus the yellow, because I ended up not using the yellow on the background of my stripes. So I've added sprinkles in Pool, Lilac, yellow, the Sunny Porch, and the Vintage Victorian. And this is the little half round it's a half circle of wood. I don't know what you call this, but anyway, I painted that the same color red. I believe that was my Imperial. Yes, it was my Imperial. I had pulled out Crimson and it was a little bit too cranberry-ish for me, a little too blue, I guess. I don't know. So I ended up using the Imperial. Now these are, I want to call them pop dots, but they're essentially double-sided foam tape from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to use them to adhere my little cupcake onto the background that I had created. And I don't know why the cupcake, it just made me happy and made me think of summertime and parties and cookouts and things like that. So this compilation of minis is a little random, but let me know what you think. And now it's time for a shout out timeout. Nice, Valerie. These are so sweet. She was busy making Mother's Day crafts. Where did I get Valentine's Day? Cute Kathy. These look so summery and fun. And sweet Rose, beautiful work. Thank you so much for sharing with all of us. I would love to give you a shout out as well. If you have interest, just send me an email at craftedbycorie@gmail.com. DIY number 4. Okay, these are some scrap skewer sticks that I had in my stash. Clearly, I've used them for other projects. I'm not sure why some of them are kind of reddish and bluish. I clearly was using them to help myself paint something. I don't know, but I'm using my dog nail clippers to help trim some of these up. I want to get 2 of the longer ones the same length. And now I'm going to be cutting up these others. I want 5 of them to be all the same length. I did not measure them. If I had to guess, they were probably about 2 to 2.5 inches long. And these are going to be rungs for a little ladder. Yes, that's what this is called. It's a ladder. We're going to be putting our little ladder together. I'm just going to use some hot glue at each of the rungs, and that's going to be enough to secure it for our purposes. So just making sure everything is nice and lined up. And I started at the bottom and then I did the top just to make sure that I had them equidistant. And then I did the middle one just by cutting it in half, you know, space-wise. That's just a trick that I use to try and get things evenly spaced when I don't want to have to use a ruler. I just use halves. So hopefully that helps. Now I've given the whole piece a couple of coats of the Adirondack white chalk paint. And I've got this baker's twine that I now have. This I picked up from the Dollar Tree. And it's a white and natural. And I'm going to be wrapping it around each of the little rungs in like a crisscross pattern. Excuse me, and I struggled with it a little bit until I started getting a method down. And I will show you the actual method in a minute so you can learn from my trial and error. But essentially, I tied it at each of the little rung crossings, if you will. So that's why I was saying before that the hot glue was going to be sufficient for our purposes because it's getting reinforced with all these ties. So here's what I did. Looped it around the upright from back to front, crossed them over each other on the front side, and then tied them again in the back. Hopefully you were able to see what I was talking about. I think I might show you one more time, hopefully here, what I was talking about. Maybe. No, I didn't. But hopefully that made sense. You basically start from the back, you wrap the twine around it, cross them over, and then feed them back through to the other side and tie them in the back. So you get like a nice little X on the front of your upright rung. Hopefully that makes sense. So now you can see I'm making a cute little bow. The pink yarn, my goodness, the pink ribbon I pulled out at first, I decided was a little too narrow. So I had another ribbon that was slightly wider, and I figured that that was going to work out a little bit better. I think the other, oh goodness, I'm trying to think of what the widths might have been, because I want to say this is a quarter of an inch, but I don't think the other one was an eighth. I'm not sure. I wish I could tell you guys. I didn't pay enough attention, but I do think that this is probably either a quarter inch or slightly over a quarter inch wide. I don't think it's a full half, but I could be mistaken. I tend to do things by sight. If you followed me for any amount of time, you know that I tend to be very visual. So, yeah, less measure and more eyeballing tends to be my way of doing things. But as you saw, I had just basically made a loop out of like a cancer loop, if you will, a remembrance loop out of the ribbon, pinched it down in the middle to make the two loops, and then I tied a little piece of the jute string around the middle to make our bow. So a very simple little bow, and I think it's sweet. Let me know what you think. Okay, everybody, that's it for today. If you enjoyed the project, remember to give me a big thumbs up, leave me a comment, let me know which one was your favorite, and remember there is a whole playlist full of Minnie's inspiration, so be sure to check out all of those videos and give those crafters some love. All right, until the next time, be well, be kind, and make it a great day. Thank you so much for watching. Take good care. Bye.